Live from the Secret Garden, this is Derailed Trains of Thought. Welcome to Derailed Trains of Thought, episode 108. My name is Timothy Deal.
My name is Nick Hayden.
And hey, Nick, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it is good to see you, Tim. and the podcast put us in a nice spot.
It's like the podcast knew we need to be taken out of our dark indoor location into a nice, bright, beautiful vineyard. Well, at least it's partly beautiful. It looks like these kids have been working at it pretty hard.
It looks pretty nice. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. In case you're wondering, we are social distancing, even though the podcast brought us together.
We are 6 feet apart.
Yes. But you know what? Indiana has lifted its curfew for social gatherings. So we're taking advantage of that so we can bring you some fun, delightful conversation for the creator and the consumer.
Yeah. Even with the kids here, there's less than 10, so we're good.
Yes, exactly. We have survived stage 1 of quarantine.
Yes. We're now in stage 2.
Here in Indiana, anyway.
In Indiana, yes.
So how are the kids holding up?
Good. School will be over in like 2 weeks. Whatever is, it's not awkward school, but it'll be over. Mm-hmm. I wish it would stay warm for more than 2 days at a time. But we're doing well.
Cool. I hope you folks enjoyed our. We did a sidetrack last month talking about our bookshelves.
Yep, I enjoyed it.
Well, it's good. That's the important thing.
Yeah, exactly. We don't care about you.
Not true.
Not true at all.
But we are glad to be back into kind of our normal routine, at least as well as we can.
Yeah, it was a nice break, and we're raring to go. So, Tim.
I think that means it's time for Story School. So I think we may have mentioned before that we have a list of potential topics for Story School, and every now and then we have one that we come up with, but it never quite feels like the right time for it. But apparently it is now the time for...
Nature in stories.
That's right. Nature in fiction, I think, is the way you put it on the list.
That's probably true.
That's neither here nor there. But yeah, we thought it'd be interesting to talk about how nature as a setting, as a... personality,
almost a character in some stories.
Yeah. So how did you want to start this off,
Well,
Nick?
I guess let's just do a quick definition of nature in the sense that at least obviously you think of trees and plants and stuff, but I guess geography to me is part of it. Like the rivers and the mountains. So I just want to
the great outdoors.
Yeah, just the land. Mm-hmm. I just want to put that out there so it's not just hey, there's an ivy tree, which I will bring up later. But so I want to make that definition first. And I guess I just wanted, it was interesting to me at this time, partly because it's spring and I'm just, trees and blossoms and warmth and sun. And also I've been reading Lord of the Rings with my kids. We just finished Fellowship of the Ring. Mm-hmm. And it's hard not to notice nature in that book.
True.
And I was also reading some Greek myths, and those are very, you got all these nymphs and naiads, and everything's personified. And it just made me think partly how some authors in some books have a very good sense of nature. And it adds a sort of distinct sense to the book that you don't get in other books. Like, I'll write books, and obviously walking through forests and hills and stuff, but I don't feel I have that sort of knack to put you in a piece of land. And to
be fair, some readers don't really want to be put in a piece of land. Like I know we've said before that sometimes readers have a hard time reading through descriptions of rolling landscape and trying to be in the moment. Now, Tolkien does a pretty good job in Lord of the Rings in certain sequences, but then there may be even other parts that even some Tolkien fans are like, all right, can we just kind of get back to the story, please?
So I guess I kind of want to talk about what does it add? Obviously, it might add things that you don't want, but what is the benefit to the reader having these someone who can describe nature well? I mean, some poets are very good at it. Tolkien, we can start with him because he's probably more known. I had this interesting kind of thought experiment in my head. I compared Lord of the Rings in my head to Wheel of Time, both epic fantasies.
Okay.
When you run around Middle Earth, you can imagine being in these various places. on the river Anduin and in the fields of Rohan and all these, you feel like real places.
Or
like
even-
the land's a character.
Or even the mines of Moria.
I mean, there's just a sense of reality, of placeness.
Uh-huh.
Wheel of Time, fascinating world, but I would say I feel more like Wheel of Time is you feel the culture is real. The people.
Just from the bits I've gleaned from you talking about it over the years, I feel like I've heard a lot more about the civilizations of Wheel of Time than anything about what the landscape is like.
And again, there's interesting lands and stuff, but it just is not a focus. And I just thought it was an interesting comparison in my head saying, okay, Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, both epic fantasies, but Tolkien has the land is a thing in that. In Miyazaki, the place is a thing. We recently, I don't know if you finished yet, but I read Watership Down.
I'm a little over halfway through Watership
The
Down
land is a thing.
Yeah, they talk a lot about, because they're rabbits.
Exactly, and it makes sense. So what do you think, Tim, nature, that sort of deeper sense of nature in some books adds?
Well, it's interesting. I think different authors can even give off different impressions of, like, again, because Watership Down is from the perspective of rabbits, so they seem to have a pretty good understanding, or at least
a rabbity
understanding of like the lay of the land and going around hill and dale, and the author even includes like details about what kinds of grass and plants they're eating or running past or hiding in or what have you. Which is similar but different to, Tolkien's perspective it's the mountains, the golden leaves of Lothlorien. Yeah. It's more of a human or an elf's perspective as opposed to being down on the ground of the rabbit's perspective.
I guess Lord of the Rings has more of a history, a sense of grandeur.
There's landmarks like the river Anduin and how it flowed, and even in the Silmarillion, there's talks about like all these lands that aren't even around, and by the time Lord of the Rings comes,
they'll come to a rock and like generations ago this happened here, and they come to a river like this used to be the But I think in both cases, what it adds is a sense of a very distinct placehood. It's not quite a character in the sense that like it has a personality, but it kind of adds the whole, like Watership Down without the details of plants would be a plot. Lord of the Rings without the sense of land would be a plot, but it's in some ways almost like stepping into scenes of reality, not real reality, I think, or more so. I don't know. Like it doesn't feel so. Again, that's the downside. It doesn't feel so plottish. But the upside, I guess, is it has a more of a sense of space, maybe, than some. I don't know. I'm assuming here.
It could be. I mean, some of what we're talking about is just setting in general. Like I've been listening through the Reckoner series, and the cities they're generally in cities in those books, but they each have their own kind of feel, a characteristic of place. Like Babelar feels very different than New Cago.
Well, there's a question then. Are there, and I don't think I've read them, are there people who write cityscapes as well as people write landscapes?
I mean, I would imagine, but I'm struggling to think. It's not the sort of thing that you and I read a lot. And it probably struck me a lot with the Reckoners, in part because of that.
And here's my second question. I would make the argument that nature done well adds a sense of either somewhere between peace and longing. And I wonder if as deep descriptions of cityscapes would do the same thing. Or if there's something innately creative about nature because in real life, they talk about the green deficit, that people don't have enough nature, and that even having a park in your neighborhood will lower crime.
That's true.
And lower heart attacks and all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, like just the presence of green does all kinds of health benefits, even if you don't walk in it. And I wonder, is there a similar thing in fiction?
I could see that. I mean, because, the cityscapes are, in a way, kind of an outgrowth of the civilization that you're telling a story about.
Yeah.
Like, Babelar is a really interesting scenario, but it's intrinsically tied to the epics, the super-powered beings that live there, why the city turns out that way. Whereas being out in the country, out in nature, it's less about any particular individual or human civilization. It's about being in nature. It's about being in God's great outdoors.
And I wonder, now that we've talked in cities and you mentioned geography, I wonder if you could make the argument, and I did not think of this beforehand, that cities are a type of geography. And you could, I mean, we've said nature, but is it a type of nature? I mean, if you describe it in a certain sense. I mean, Moria, we said Moria was, and that's kind of a civilization.
True.
Rivendell.
Although it was abandoned at the time.
Yeah.
I guess we have to like distinguish our terms though again.
Yeah.
I could say the city, Rivendell, those are still locations, those are environments in the story. Whereas nature itself, I think the word is more specific to
living in
wild nature. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious.
But it's a good question.
And there's a certain amount of beauty, I think, when nature's done well. Like even rabbit beauty is beautiful. You know, they mention the sun. There's that sense of closeness to the land. It was interesting because before I read Watership Down, I was reading the journals of Lewis and Clark, which are a lot of here's a mountain and here's where the river, and then we went down this river and we found some snakes, and I mean just journals about land, which is kind of fascinating. Just get the sense of exploring the West, which is why I was reading anyways. That story fascinated me, but it's not that far removed from rabbits exploring a river, a creek, or
a creek, which seems
like a river
because you're a rabbit.
Yeah. Here's another question. I almost have more questions than answers tonight.
Sure.
Greek mythology.
Okay.
A lot of these gods were based off, the waves, the wind, the lightning, the flowers, they name things.
It's interesting to think about because, like, I don't always think about Greek gods being connected that strongly to things because I know that's true with a lot of divinities in different religions and things like that. So it's when I think of Greek gods, I think more like the pantheon and these important stories and Hades and the underworld and things like that. But that's
And so I'm curious, and this is more just my personal interest in how things have changed from like more modern society where we're much more urbanized. Do we understand in the same way that sort of deep connection to nature? I'm sure some people do. I mean, if you live in Wyoming, and my grandparents lived in Wyoming. There's a different sense out there.
Yeah. Well, and there's definitely people that's their main hobby.
Yeah.
Like being outdoors, the hikers, the campers.
Like I always feel bad from a creative point of view. I wish I could describe plants and landscapes better. Like I don't know how to describe mountains. Like I am amazed whenever someone can do it well because there's a cliff and I think I know what that looks like. Like trying to draw about ravines and all that stuff. It's like hard to do well. And the people who do it well, you're living in a world.
Yeah.
In a world.
It is an interesting point because I don't know when I read that kind of stuff, like say in a Louis L'Amour book, who he talks about like,
and the old westerns are good at that.
Yeah, they try to talk about a canyon that they were exploring or something. It's like they have a understanding of like the flow of the landscape that I have a hard time emulating because it's like it's a hill, you go up or you go down it.
Well, and the thing is, we here in Indiana, we don't have a lot of experience in long distances. That's just not. I mean, you're out in some wilderness. You can see for a way. You get a sense of the land in a different way, probably.
Well, and in the modern, that's true. And in the modern era, when we have cars that take us anywhere, like you don't even have to be a city person. Like driving between towns 30 miles apart is a lot faster sometimes than driving 30 miles across the city. Yeah, because there's a lot more traffic and stuff. But at the same time, you're somewhat connected to it because you can see the landscape go by in your window, but it's even less connected than if you're actually walking through it.
Yeah, I remember having this experience one time walking home from work, which is like a couple miles. I decided to walk home, and it was a beautiful evening, sun going down, and you just notice things that you don't when you're driving past it. Just a sense of, it's interesting. Like when my kids, well, I still do it, but even especially when the kids were smaller, we'd walk around the block, our little block, and we stop at every, we stop to pick up leaves or look at this flower in the side. Suddenly all these things you don't even think about, you notice. And maybe there's a certain amount of that the people who write nature well can explain those things we tend to not look at.
That's interesting. It really does take, and maybe this is part of the problem. I wonder if to write nature well, you really need to have a poet's perspective of things.
I think it helps, and I think you have to be one of those people who just you love the land, and that love comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Even reading Hound of the Baskervilles, the sense of the moors.
Oh yeah,
Just comes, again, some of that's atmosphere,
right?
Which we've talked about in a different podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But just that I know nothing. I've never been on a moor, but man, the English are on them all the time.
And somehow, Doyle conveyed that pretty well, even without you actually being there.
You're transported in a different way. I think people can put you in that spot, even when you've not been in a spot like that. Like you only known pictures or analogies.
Or maybe it's close enough to something you have experienced. Maybe you've not been in a moor, but you've been outside on a really foggy day.
Yeah.
So you can kind of using pictures you've seen and your own experiences, you kind of patch these things together, which I suppose is one reason why Lewis can write things like Paralandra on a completely different planet, and we can kind of picture, I've never been on a island that floated like a raft, but I've been out in a boat before, so I can kind of picture what this floating island might feel like if with the landscape constantly changing underneath the water.
But like you've said too, that if someone who does a lot of nature discussion in their books, some people are like, "Oh boy, let's get over this. And it does slow things down, which is the whole point of nature in some ways.
I suppose that's true, but I mean that's an interesting thing to develop then, because is it a distraction from? I mean, I guess in Lord of the Rings, part of the purpose of the landscapes is to show the importance of the world that they're trying to save. If it was just a straight line, get from point A to point B, from Shire to Mordor, without really exploring anything between, there wouldn't be nearly as much stakes for what Middle Earth is all about.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, Tolkien keeps track of the changes of the moon, and I mean, it's impressive. It's has a lot of verisimilitude.
Well, we keep going back to Watership Down because it's fresh, but I guess from what I understand, a lot of those locations are actual locations.
I think he just lived there.
He lived there, so he knew like every hill and dale, it seemed like, practically.
Near the end, half spoiler, Dr. Adams shows up as a character.
No, the author?
I think it's him, yeah.
That's funny.
So it's probably he just lived around there, and he just, I mean, and that's cool. And especially, the Ivy Tree, which you haven't read.
Not all.
Oh, did you start? You did start it.
I've started it like twice.
But it is, I mean, there's a lot of description of the plants and stuff of this farm.
Okay.
But it also plays a role because this farm is the place that they're fighting over the inheritance, and there's a sense of history there. I mean, when you describe nature well, I think you can describe beauty. I think you can get that sense of longing, but I think you also can get this sense of this is a place we want to care about.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking a lot about books, but I think visual mediums can convey this on a different level for certain. It's less poetic at times. I mean, movies like to focus on the vistas, the grand landscapes.
Yeah.
In The Searchers, we saw Monument Valley.
Yes.
Which I think is the name of it. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Miyazaki, though, does this on a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
In his movies, nature feels like the mysterious thing that whenever, like when you go outside, or like if you've been on a long hike and you come across a vista that you can only get to by walking for 10 miles.
Yeah.
That's a completely different vibe, or even not even just a vista, if you're surrounded by wildflowers and branches and things like that. It's a completely different wild sensibility that it's a little harder to get on in a movie because you're either constantly on the go or you're like looking out over a beautiful landscape.
Yeah.
But Miyazaki somehow, because he takes this kind of quieter, more pastoral approach a lot of times with nature, you kind of get that sense. Like it's not quite like being outdoors, but it's evocative of being outdoors.
Yes. I mean, some of the movies are almost largely about the power of nature.
Princess Mononoke being an obvious example there.
Or lighter. I mean, Neighbor Totoro is very much like just the mystery of moving into this house and being surrounded. I mean, they spend all their time just basically wandering around outside, and just the fact like rain is just is an event.
That's true.
And there's something. Miyazaki does both the more epic, the Princess Mononoke, and the more quiet. Like, let's just take a moment to soak in normal nature.
Sophie sitting on the side of a lake, just enjoying being still for a little bit.
In Howl's Moving Castle, which is a great scene. And I think we all want to be, and again, most people get spring fever. They want to just be outside for any reason, or sit on the porch, or or go to the beach and just watch the waves. And I think we all want to be.
You don't have to be in quarantine to get cabin fever.
Exactly. And I think there is something about nature in real life that brings us out of ourselves and is, spiritual is too strong of a word, I think, because we misunderstood. But add something creatively to the world that man-made structures don't.
Yeah.
And I think good writers who are good at that, I'm not saying, I don't think all books need this, but some books, it fits very well to have that sense of grandeur, space, rootedness, if you're talking more rabbits, that is different than you get if it's just like, oh, and it was a cave, and it was where it's beyond atmospheric, where it's kind of gone a deeper level.
Yeah. Sometimes it is about the exploring aspect of it.
Yeah, that helps too.
Like video games are good at that with exploring. Like I'm getting near the end of Shadow of the Colossus, which I've been playing.
Oh yeah.
Which I know has been recommended to me in the past. And one of the big things of that is you're setting out to go find a Colossus, but you don't know exactly where it is. You kind of have to find your way. So you often start off in this big grassland area, but every now and then, like, it takes you through this really serene forest that you didn't expect, or you get to look out over this canyon that's filled with waterfalls. And when you're not expecting it, it's because it's just over the next rise, and suddenly you're there playing as a character. It kind of takes your breath away. I mean, which is fun. I mean, it's not the first game to do that sort of thing. At least not the first game I've played. Final Fantasy games sometimes are about the exploring these fantastic worlds.
You showed me Journey. It had that sort of exploratory, just like wonder sort of thing. I mean, there's parts of different Myst games that have that. You're just wandering around this land, and you're like, you don't even care. There's no, it's not even about the puzzles sometimes. It's just like, this is just new. I mean, this is why we went out west. Just to see things.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's part of it too. Just that sense of what is there.
Yeah. What is out there? Take me into something new and grand and beyond myself.
That's why I've always been fascinated with Lewis and Clark going out west, doing all the exploring. I mean, how cool. Just, we're just going to go out here and
it's something no civilized man has ever seen.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
So, and that's why, Luz L'Amour does some good books out west, doing that sort of stuff. The Sackett's and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I think right now I'm trying to write something. There's a lot of traveling in it, which is not my strong suit. So it's really hard for me. But it's something that I think is important for this book. So maybe that's been why it's been on my mind too. I also want to communicate the sense of land and
place
space and place. And it's not my first thing. Some people can do it much. I don't quite have the right poets. Like, I can appreciate it, but it's hard for me to communicate it.
One time that strikes me that you did it decently well, and maybe it was because the characters are talking about a grander mythology to go along with it. That there seems like there's a moment or two in Unremarkable Squire where Obed and Violet are looking out over the stars and talking about the possibilities of. I think Obed reiterates some myth that he had heard about, and it's kind of like one of these like, what is our place in this world sort of moments.
See, I think I've always had this desire to communicate these big, because I think personally, I enjoy. I almost wish I could go out west more. I wish I could. I spent a lot of my young, teenage years wandering the forest, my parents' forest. Sometimes I want to communicate the sort of what it's like to do that. But I'm not good with the words to do it, so I'm glad that apparently works sometimes. But yeah, I think I don't know. There's certain types of meaning that seem most appropriate in nature.
I do think it is a challenge in some ways for our generation, whether because of modernity or whether we just. It's one of those things as a kid. I know for me, sometimes as a kid, I just saw that as. Oh, that's kind of my dad's thing, and I'm more into this other stuff. But then later, like I remember, I think this was when I was in LA, ruminating to one of my roommates out there. I think we were going for a walk in a nearby park, and being like, you and I, we grew up, we really wanted to learn the names of Star Wars characters, all the minor characters and stuff. But our dads were like learning the names of plants and insects and things that I guess are kind of useful, more useful than knowing who
Seal Bibble is.
I actually don't even remember that one.
Seal Bibble's the guy who says, it can only mean one thing, invasion.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, wait. Okay. Yes, episode 1, isn't it?
Yeah, he's also in 2, and in that time, he's also panicky. I mean, he's consistent.
He's consistently panicky.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say someone like Salacious Crumb.
Salacious Crumb.
Salacious Crumb, yeah, the guy from Jabba's
Or
Palace.
Figrin Dan and the Model Nodes.
See, exactly. I know who those are, but most of the grass types that they name in Watership Down, I have no idea.
And when reading Watership Down, it made me kind of sad I didn't know them. And I think because I'm at the 8, okay, I'm older than I was. And I think I wish I had known more of that, or that I knew it now. Like sometimes Rainey and I will go around and find mushrooms now. My daughter's probably the most naturey of my kids. Theo couldn't care less most times. And Mercy, I don't know yet.
And I guess that there is something that maybe not just generation, may just be personality. Because I know my sister Danielle, she fell in love with raising chickens. We grew up on a farm, and I guess she had always grown up on a farm, whereas I kind of moved into one. So maybe she just got interested at a younger age than I did.
Because Serenity loves animals. Like I'd never have a pet myself if my kids didn't want one. It's just not interesting to me. But I always wish I knew, like, could tell trees by their bark and know which plants you could eat and that sort of stuff. I mean, I know you can like zucchini and stuff, but just foraging. And I think it's super cool people that do. And I think maybe when I get older, even maybe I'll just putter around and do that sort of thing. My grandma was she knew how, like, what berries to dye any of her wool. I mean, she was like, super, yeah, she could do all kinds of stuff like that.
Wow.
And my sister got some of that. My sister Summer, she could make poultices and stuff out of she's like, it's like all this old like wives' tale stuff she knows how to do.
I knew she was super crafty.
But yeah, she knows all these, like, this herb, and you smash it up and you put it in your back of your mouth and it fixes that sort of stuff. Anyways, so I think some stories communicate that sort of love that some people have. And I think it's a special thing when you can do it well and not bore people to death.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be curious to see how your new story that apparently you're working on as opposed to finishing Strid and Fred.
Yes. Moving on.
I'll be curious to see how it incorporates that, because it's useful to understand our strengths and weaknesses, I think, as a creative, as a storyteller or what have you. And sometimes you want to lean into your strengths, but other times it might be good to try to shore up your weaknesses.
We'll see, yeah. And it fits the story is the problem.
Yeah. Well, if you got a good story that works, then
that's what we're hoping.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of forces you to do it if like, this is what the story needs, so got to try it.
Here we go. Yep. So all right.
I don't know, maybe that you can take that as a challenge next time you come across, dear listener, some landscape description that you want to roll your eyes at. It's like, well, let's see. Maybe the author does it pretty poorly, but maybe he can pull something interesting out of it.
Yeah, sounds good.
With that said, let's move on into our soundtrack.
1, 2, 3, hit it!
For my soundtrack today, I've got something written by the one and only DJ Pretzel.
Ooh, is this... I almost picked this one, I think. Is this what the ocean taught the forest?
Yes! How did you do that?
Because I was going to pick this one, then I changed my mind.
Oh, good grief. Am I that predictable, or do we think along the same lines?
It's such a good song.
It is a good song. DJ Pretzel is the founder of Overclocked Remix, or at least one of the founders. Is he the founder?
I think he's the founder.
The founder. Okay, but this is one of his own remixes from The Secret of Mana, and you already heard the name because Nick gave it away, but it's called What the Ocean Taught the Forest. And DJ Pretzel did say in his write-up that it is kind of, he does kind of see it as his celebration of exploration of nature. And you can kind of see it. And it's nice because it has a lot of different nature modes in it.
And it's a good vibe.
Yeah, good vibe. It's playful at times. It's very peaceful at other times. But anyway, I hope you enjoy. And we're back.
That was nice.
Yes, it's a nice little musical journey.
Yeah, he says it was partly inspired by his 75th watching of Moana with his daughter.
With his daughter, yeah. I'm guessing as a parent you can identify with that.
Yes, I actually do not watch that one that often, but
you have
for a
seen
while.
certain things.
Certain things quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, for our next segment, it is time for It's Came from the Intrawebs. Okay, so this time Nick has got something to show me, something bit of creativity that he has found in the wilds of the internet.
Yeah, it's just it's a little short thing, and I thought it applied to our talk on nature. So, Tim, type in plants.fm.
Plants.fm. This makes me think we're going to a radio station here.
Yes,
Do
basically.
do plants make a lot of noise? Plants FM is an online streaming service delivering live music generated by plants.
Yes. So, okay, so go down a little bit. Let's listen to a little bit of this plant music. Okay, this is a live stream of, what did it say, a snake plant?
Yes. Now, this is going to be tricky. If this is a live stream, this may sound different when I actually put it in post.
It'll probably still be.
So we won't comment directly on what we're hearing too much, but
It's pretty calm and chill, and I think it stays that way. From
it's
my
pretty much
understanding.
always kind of like this.
So apparently, there's this product called Plant Wave. It used to be called MIDI Sprout or
Okay.
Sprout MIDI, where you attach things to your plants, and then you listen to the bioelectric pulses of the plant turning into music.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture here. It's like they got little two clips attached to leaves of a plant, like a potted plant.
Yes. So yeah, like you can't find a lot of them on YouTube if you type in like.
It's like you're trying to jumpstart a plant.
And apparently, I saw a video like if you clap, like the music changes, like the plant interacts to
Oh, really?
stimuli and stuff.
Huh.
Because I think scientists have now. Like I'm not like, oh yes, they talk to each other and they feel, but I think they have this determined that like plants will through electrical pulses or other things communicate with other plants about intruders and things like through roots and stuff. But yeah, there's this device, and if you go to like YouTube and type in like plant wave music, you can find some people like apparently there's one where they attach to a cannabis plant or like a cactus, and you can just listen to kind of the chill music comes off, and I think some people even like add their own like piano over top of it and make
I was gonna ask with what we're listening to right now. So the electrical signals are they playing the piano notes or is it the wind sounds that we're hearing?
I am not completely certain because I think it's all of this, and it's just different things. They're translating into music, into sounds.
Okay.
They claim it's a live stream of just the snake plant. So I think it's supposed to be legit, but the whole thing's a little weird. But I kind of wish I had one just to see what would happen. So like if you go to plantwave.com, you can see the actual device.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very curious what's the actual like translation of. You said it's like electrical impulses?
Like bioelectrical
impulses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious what the translation is, what the correlation to what those signals are to what we're
And I
hearing.
didn't dig deep enough into this because I think probably go down a rabbit hole. But it is kind of interesting, and again, it's like the music you get on like a spa CD.
Yeah, very much so. Or I feel like the ASMR people would really appreciate this.
And then you rub the plant's leaves and change the music. So
like what was that game on DS? Was it Pictograph? I don't know. I can't remember. I remember there was something on there was like a Smash Brothers stage that was based on it, where like there was like leaves, like as the characters would go up and down the leaves, it hit musical notes and stuff. It was very
interesting.
Kind of
Pretty
easy
chill.
listening. Yeah, I can't think what the game is. It's based on.
So I had hoped to find like a whole like collection of YouTube videos we look at, but you can find them here and there. There's not apparently a lot of interest in this sort of stuff, but the people who are
People
like,
aren't that big into listening to plants.
but some people are like, anyways, it's you can get it for your iPhone, so you can just stream some cool plant music while they have videos about how you can use it in the field. You're taking a hike and they just hook up whatever plant nearby. But yeah, it was weird. Watch one where you clap your hand and it changes it like spikes the music or whatever. Anyways, it was just a little from the intrawebs, but I thought it was a unique little piece of the internet. I'm not sure a lot of people know about.
It is, and it's not as if this sort of thing couldn't. I don't know if it requires the internet for this to exist, but like the internet makes it much more likely
for people to sell this,
people to find it and sell. Yeah,
yeah. I'm a little skeptical of the sort of people who like are hardcore about this, but. That's just me. I mean, like, so guys, if you need to go to sleep, go to plants.fm and just listen to the snake plant all night.
It's very restful.
So there's just my little foray into pottery, polyphonic. I don't know.
Fun stuff. I haven't found any interesting interwebs things in a while that I felt would be a good fit. So I'm glad you thought of that.
I just saw nature. I'm like, I remember someone talking about music and plants. So I found that thing.
Cool. Well, all right. We're not going to spend too long on interwebs today, but I thought it might be fun to touch back on something we talked on not too long ago, although with the coronavirus changing the world a few months ago seems like forever ago.
Forever.
But that, of course, that being said, we're going to do a previously on. So back in December, we talked about biblical adaptations.
Yes.
And shortly after that, well, let's see, when was it? I guess it was March. I'd seen the advertisements on Facebook for this program called The Chosen.
See, I saw the ads too. I'm like, I should try that. And I had never had a chance to.
Yeah, I was like, I wonder what that thing is about. But I was like, I don't know who put this. I'd have to research it before I'd really. So I was like, I don't know. We'll see. But then Megan Basham did a review for it on the podcast, The World and Everything in It. I was very thankful for it, and she gave it a glowing review. Had a few qualms with it, but a glowing review made me want to try it. So I watched it. If you don't know what The Chosen is, it's basically a new streaming series, set up like a TV series, like Netflix.
8 episodes or something?
It is currently, the first season is out. It's 8 episodes long. And in Netflix tradition, not necessarily all the episodes are the same length.
Okay, yeah.
But the company behind it is called VidAngel.
Okay, I know VidAngel.
They're the ones that have been embroiled in like copyright battles with movie studios because they try to do services where they cut out like objectionable material from movies.
Yeah, and I think you can pick which objectionable material you want cut out, and they'll give you that version. Or something like that.
If you want to cut out the nudity or the cussing or what have you.
Yeah.
And Hollywood companies don't like this, even though VidAngel was trying very hard to stick within appropriate copyright codes. But anyway, that's a whole different matter. Apparently now they're also trying to do their own streaming service.
Yeah.
And one of the products was the show, The Chosen, directed and show run by a director named Dallas Jenkins.
Sounds right.
If I'm remembering right. I should have looked it up earlier. But it's a story about Jesus and his disciples. And it is very much in the lines of the sort of thing that we were talking about that we would like to see more of in that episode.
They listened to us with a remarkable turnaround.
Yeah. Like, I think they did it before we talked about it.
That's not possible.
I don't know. So, yeah, it's 8 episodes. And what I've been impressed by how they've done it is that they've very clearly said, yes, Dallas Jenkins, that's his name. And he's done videos on, they have an app for if you just want to check out The Chosen, and if you're not interested in the whole VidAngel service, you can look at The Chosen. There's an app for it on its own.
And it's free, correct?
Currently, I don't remember. It was free throughout the month of April. And there are some episodes that are free on YouTube.
Okay.
I don't remember. I'm not for certain if it's all free now or not, but it's well worth investing in if you want. I know we watched like a few episodes and then my mom ordered a DVD set, I think. So they are very beholden to scripture and taking it seriously. Obviously, it's interesting. VidAngel, I think, is run by, I think it's more of a Mormon group.
I can see that.
But Dallas Jenkins himself is evangelical Christian, and he is consulted with rabbis and a lot of people, but like he said, bottom line is scripture, but we're exploring basically a possible backstory with all these characters.
So it's art.
It's art,
Yeah.
yes, and he's making that very clear. But he's like, our Jesus is not the real Jesus. It's an idea. It's an exploration, and they're doing a remarkable job with it. So in like the first eight episodes basically go from it's basically you see Jesus calling some of the first disciples, healing Mary Magdalene. Basically, it goes from before his ministry goes public to the last episode of the season is this spoiler, I guess, but his conversation with the woman at the well.
What? I've never heard that story. Okay.
But the fun thing about it is it really gives a lot more time to explore these various scenarios that we've seen in the Bible. I mean, there's practically an entire episode about the wedding in Cana. You know, in most Jesus movies, that would take like 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
So it really gives it time for the story to breathe in a way, and you kind of can put yourself in there. And there's also, they do some interesting backstories about some of the disciples. Like Simon, he has this ongoing story. He doesn't meet Jesus till like episode 5, like over halfway through the season.
Okay.
And he has this ongoing struggle thing that he's in over his head about having to pay off tax collectors.
Okay.
And things like this. Matthew is a main character in this first season, and they do they play with an interesting idea with him. Like, what would cause a Jew to become a tax collector? They portray him as possibly having Asperger's syndrome.
Huh.
The idea being like he's one of these like brainiac, you know, he can think certain things, but doesn't have the social skills that another person has.
Huh.
So it would make sense for someone like him to be forced into using something that was counting
Yeah.
and using his head. And so, which makes him even more of an awkward outcast among his own people.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting idea. The very first episode, they explore Mary Magdalene before she gets cleansed from demons and what that's like. And Nicodemus is another major character that they explore. He's kind of searching, feeling like the Jews have kind of missed something, but he doesn't really understand what. And he tries to exorcise Mary and fails, and goes back and tells his wife, only God himself could have done that.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And says,
So it sounds like it did all those things we wanted to see in more biblical adaptations, where you take scripture seriously, but you also make it good drama and bring, I don't know if this is too fancy word, sanctified imagination to it.
yeah, I think that's a perfect description for it. Because, yeah, it really does make you connect with the people living there in more powerful ways. And then, by extension, when they encountered Jesus, it gives you a new, fresh appreciation of awe at what is going on in these scenes.
And it's nice just because I actually just read a Breakpoint today was about The Chosen, saying, hey, you should watch it, et cetera, et cetera. And he made the point, and it sounds like what you're saying agrees with it, that it also just makes everything very human.
Oh, yeah.
Which is sometimes the problem with, let's say you go to the church, Bible stories are these sort of stories that seem all very perfect and pure, and it's a little messier than all that.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it goes forward, because one of the strengths with the series, this sounds strange at first, but bear with me. It's actually interesting early in the first part of the series that, especially the first episode, Jesus doesn't come in until the very end of it.
Yeah.
So you really, and it's easier to swallow these like what if scenarios with all the apostles and stuff.
Yeah.
It always feels a little like different when you're seeing Jesus having conversations that you never had him, but because it kind of eases into having Jesus in this story set, you kind of like, okay, I kind of get where it's going. But then it gets a little funny too when you start having conversations that are recorded in more detail in the Bible.
Yeah.
Like the conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus, or the conversation between the woman at the well and the Samaritan woman. Because you have to follow the same beats from those conversations as you're recording more detail. But what they tend to do is they give a little bit more, like the sort of like details that a pastor would give in a sermon. They work that into the dialogue to kind of help the transitions flow. Because sometimes if you just read like the story of the woman at the well, for instance, it seems like they change topics suddenly.
Yeah.
And I think back in the day, the Jewish readers, or the people at that time, they would have understood the like how the connecting thoughts.
Yeah.
But for us, sometimes it's just, why are they talking? They were talking about this a moment ago. Now they're talking about Jacob as well.
Yeah.
Like, what's the connection? And they add little bits to kind of bridge that for modern viewers a
Okay,
little bit more
interesting.
easily. So it'll be interesting to see how they go forward as they like I said, Jesus recruited a little over half of his 12 disciples so
Okay.
far. One, it'll be interesting to see what they do with. They don't show every single disciple getting called,
Yeah.
but they show a number of them in this first season. But I'll be curious to see, like, there's some of the ones that are still outstanding will be like Simon the Zealot.
Okay.
That'll be interesting with Matthew already in the party. And of course, Judas Iscariot.
Yeah.
How do you introduce Judas?
Yeah. And how do you approach him? Was he always a little off, or was he all in and then change? There's
yeah.
various versions people play.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very, and like with Simon, it's pretty cool because, like, yeah, Simon is in a very bad state before he met Jesus.
Yeah.
Kind of desperate. And then Jesus has the throw your net over for
Yeah.
a catch. Also, fun fact, the setting is really fun, and everyone talks with a Middle Eastern accent.
Oh, nice.
Which I was like, have I ever actually, this seat feels authentic. Obviously they weren't actually speaking English.
What?
But at least they're not speaking with a British accent or something. So it's fun to see, like, all the characters in authentic, not just authentic setting, but authentic races and dialogue and all that kind of stuff.
It will be more, you're right, as they move farther along. In some ways, the net tightens by the time you get to Holy Week. There's just so much. Because the Gospels do the detail of that last week in much greater detail. There's still a lot of room, but there's not. The closer you get to the crucifixion, the less and less room there is to do things.
Exploration. Yeah, that's true. And I'm very curious to see how they'll do. And I think they're going to take their time getting there. I think they said they want to do about 5 or 6 seasons.
I've always, even from high school, I've decided 5 seasons is a good number for most shows.
Yeah.
5 to 7.
Yeah, which again, I like that. It sounds like they've got a good long-term plan in mind, which is cool, especially since this is all a crowd-funded.
I heard that
project.
it was that the first is the second season's crowdfunding. Do they find some sponsors by the second?
I don't know if they have sponsors, but they're still crowdfunding the second season right now. They funded the first 3 episodes. I think they're expecting it to be another 8-episode season.
Nice.
So yeah, this is a good time to get into it. I'm planning to donate at some point because being crowdfunded, they don't have to worry about network interference.
Which, as we've learned from the Weekly Hijack,
Yeah, if you're
is not
listening
great
to-
for your show.
If you've been listening to us talk about Crusade, how Crusade just got manhandled by the network and was all the worse for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a very good thing in this case that this is being funded by the audience,
By people who want to see this,
and
done
people who
well.
want to see this done very well. And it is worth. That's one reason why I thought it'd be worth talking about it, because it hasn't been that long since we talked about biblical adaptations, and this is a perfect example of
what we were talking about.
Yeah, of doing it well, doing interesting things with it. So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Nice. I actually just today my dad was going to download the VidAngel thing to watch
it out.
Yeah, yeah, it's on my list of things. Just haven't managed to get there yet.
Yep. There's always a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, because you started watching it. They made it free in April because
Okay.
it was Easter
Yep.
month.
Yep.
I don't know if it's free now, but
Maybe worth it regardless.
yeah,
Yep.
I think so. And I remember Megan Bashan pointed out it's not perfect. I remember one of the first episodes feeling like I'm not quite buying this crowd scene. It felt a little artificial. I don't know why exactly. I remember Megan Bashan didn't like it. At one point, Jesus said to Nicodemus, "What's in your heart?" Which, in this context of the conversation, it made sense, but at the same time, it's more of a modern sort of thing.
Yeah.
The theology is not real strong there. Probably not something Jesus would actually say.
Yeah.
So there's going to be little bits like that where you're like, I don't know about this, but for the most part, they're on the right path, I think.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
Good previously on.
Well, I think that's all we got today.
I think that's all we've got.
It might be a little shorter episode, but you know what? We're just getting back in the swing of things
Yep.
for post-quarantine. But speaking of the Weekly Hijack,
Yes.
that will be wrapping up
Well, almost by the time this comes out,
Crusade
probably.
very soon. Yeah, I think, if I remember right, we have enough episodes to take us into the beginning of June.
Okay.
So if you've been meaning to catch up on that, do so, because the Weekly Hijack will unfortunately be going on a little bit of a hiatus. To be fair, I think we had kind of been thinking about putting Weekly Hijack on hold over the course of the summer, but quarantine necessitated that because we did not get together at all during quarantine time, and I don't know when we will start that up again. Eventually, the plan is, as long as the world doesn't end, to restart Weekly Hijack maybe September or something, and we'd be getting into Lost again.
Lost. We started with it, and now we shall end. Well,
We have
with
to
it.
go back because we did the first 2 seasons.
Too bad we
of
did
it.
stop at the end of season 3 and then say we had to go back.
I know it would have been perfect, but that's okay. We've got seasons 3 through 6
Fun stuff.
to tackle, so that should be. It'll be interesting. It'll be very different, I feel like, when we get back to that than when we did it before, because there's more time in between.
Yes.
Between when Lost was a thing and
We don't remember all the details, and we won't be quite as invested in certain.
certain things.
Yeah.
I went back.
Outriggers.
I went back and listened to some of our Weekly Hijacks, some of the early, and it's like we were constantly like talking back with like the ramifications, like the season 6 stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how much of that stuff comes back to mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, be looking forward to that. That's down the road. In the meantime, we are finishing up Crusade, this little forgotten bit of Babylon 5 history.
Interesting history.
Interesting history, indeed.
Also, if you would like to make a comment on anything here, we'd love to. You can come to our website at derailedtrainsofthought.blogspot.com, or we'd love you to email us an audio clip that we could share on the show at derailedtrains@gmail.com.
Yes, we would love to hear that. Let's hear about. And last time we asked you for submissions about your bookshelf. I think I know someone who said that she was going to do that.
We'll still take them.
We'll still take them, yes. The door is not closed to that. Or to really any of our past podcasts, although you may have to like wave and get our attention. We tend to forget about the email sometimes.
So
Anyway, the email is derailedtrains@gmail.com.
let's give them a question to answer if they call in here, Tim.
Okay.
So how about, what is your favorite nature scene in a book or movie?
Yes, in any story.
Any story. Yeah. Comic, audio drama, whatever.
Yeah.
Play.
Audio drama, that would be interesting.
No, yeah. What is one scene that really stuck with you just about nature?
Yeah, I would love to hear it. Meanwhile, Nick, do you have a soundtrack to wrap us up with?
Yes. Okay, this is from Echo, The Tides of Time, which is about a dolphin.
Do you play as a dolphin in
Yeah,
this game?
you are actually the dolphin.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I played it once ages ago, don't remember much, but there's a lot of exploration going through the ocean. Now, I think there's also like aliens and time travel and stuff.
What game system was this on?
I believe it was Sega Genesis.
Okay. That would explain why I never
It's
did.
been a long time since I played it once. But anyways, this song called Another Seascape, remixed by Halsey, I believe is how you say it, though it looks like Halk.
I have to. Okay, sorry, I'm distracted, but I have to ask. So you played this on Sega Genesis. How in the world did you play this Echo and not play Sonic the Hedgehog?
I played a little bit of Sonic.
Oh, okay.
I was at my friend's house, played a little Sonic, but another friend's house, we played some Echo.
Okay, all right.
So, but like,
I just remember saying you didn't really grow up with it much. I was like,
no, I really didn't. No, I remember because it's not every day you play a game with the dolphin as the main character. Okay.
fair point. Fair point.
But it seems like seascape and dolphins are very naturey, and this song has a nice chill feel to it as well. So I hope you enjoy Another Seascape.
Awesome. Well, I think we will take our time exploring the secret garden a little bit.
Just soaking the sun, and yeah.
Enjoying all the flora and fauna that these kids have put a lot of hard work into renovating this place.
Yeah.
It looks like, and hope you take some time during your quarantine if you're still doing it. Maybe you're been set partially free like us, but either way, the state parks are still open. Go out there, enjoy nature, and see what new stories you can come across.
Imagine, yes.
Until next time, this is Tim.
This is Nick.
Bye-bye.
Bye.